Okay, by popular demand, here is my video kind of explaining capos, how I use them, and where I decide to use them at. I like to use capos for lots of reasons. One of them is just because it's easier on my wrist, on the first and second fret especially, kill me. But you can just do things more if you can, instead of being locked into position in a bar chord, you can do more things with open chords. So that capo, I mean, it's just so nice just to have it. And also when I'm playing with the second guitarist, sometimes I'll let him play it open, and I'll throw a capo up the neck of the guitar, and it just sounds so much fuller because I'm playing notes higher up on the fretboard, and it just, I don't know, it just sounds nice. But you can do more things like picking patterns and pulling off and hammering on and moving around with your suspended fourths and suspended twos and all that. You just can do a little bit more when you have your hands free to play with the open chords. So when you're using capo, one thing you should think about are the open keys. These are 5 groups of keys that have chords that you could use in with a capo. I think I just said that completely wrong. Anyway, in the key of G, the key of A, key of D, E, and C, they all have at least one open chord in it. So what you can do is use those shapes to go up the neck and change keys. And I'm going to try to explain that right now. Okay, the key of G is my all-time favorite because, well, it's just got the most open chords in it. First of all, let me give credit to this guy down here on this website. I copied these chords. I thought it was pretty cool. So in the key of G, I'm not going to talk about the seventh degree. You know, that's supposed to be a diminished chord, and he puts a half diminished here. For the purpose of this video, we're just talking about chords 1 through 6. And just as a review, I don't know who's watching this. 1, 4, and 5 are major chords. 2, 3, and 6 are minor chords. So in the key of G, you can see that out of the 6 chords, 5 of them are open chords. The G, you've got some open strings here, real easy to play. The A minor, open, it's an open chord. The C, the D, and the E minor. So that's one reason that I just love the key of G for capo use. Another tip, which is just good to know in general when you play guitar and you're using different chord shapes, you need to know the root note, where it is in your chord. For example, this G chord, there are 3 roots in here. Right here, that's a G. This open string is a G. And right here is a G. So this G shape has actually 3 root notes in it. I could go through all of them, but you can figure them out. The reason I mention that is because that's another way to figure out where you want to put your capo. If you can find what note, like you want to use the key of G chords, and you know G is going to be your number 1 chord. If you want to use these shapes and move to, like, I don't know, the key of A, you know that this note right here is going to have to be an A. So you're going to have to slide your fingers up to where that would be an A, which is, you know, and then you'd put your capo down relative to the shape. That's one way of doing it. Let me move on to the next key. The key of A, that's another goodie. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3. 3 open chords, so it's a pretty handy dandy group of shapes to use with a capo. Again, your root notes in the A chord is this open string, of course, and then right here, that's another A. So this is an A and this is an A. Again, it can help you figure out where to put your capo. All right. Key of D, another good set of chords, shapes, because you've got the D, which is open, the E minor is open, the G, and the A. So the root in this one, of course, is here. That's a D, and here's a D. All right, moving on. E is not one of my favorite at all. It is not very useful to me because you can see the E chord is open and the A chord is open. That's it. Out of the 6 chords, 2 of them are open chords. Now, as a side note, B, it's true that B cannot be played as an open chord, but there is a little exception here for some songs because B is the 5, B is the dominant, so you can substitute the B7 for this chord, and a B7 chord is an open chord. But you know, all songs are not going to let you substitute the 7 chord. Some of them will, but some songs it just doesn't fit right. But that's the key of E. I generally do not use that one very often at all. And I say that one, I'm talking about this whole group of chords with a capo. I generally don't use these group of chords with a capo. But it can be done. I'm trying to say that it's possible. Same thing with the key of C. I kind of middle of the road on this one. I do use this one once in a blue moon. You've got the C chord is open, the D minor, the E minor, and the G. I use this one from time to time. And of course, here's your root note, and here's your root note on your C. I think I forgot to tell you on your E major chord on that last frame, but I think you know how to figure out your root notes and your chord shapes. That's kind of important to know that. Also, I had to go to a different website to get these chords. So, props to Dr. Psychotic. Thanks. Okay, so, if you want to use a capo with the open key of G shapes, it's pretty easy. You just throw your capo down and, you know, you pretend like that's the capo is the nut of the guitar. You just pretend like you're using a shorter guitar. Now, you're like, well, how do you know what key I'm playing? Well, basically, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can use the chromatic scale and just walk your way up. Like if you throw your capo on 1 and you play a G, C, and D shape, you're not playing in the key of G anymore. Now you're playing in the key of A flat. That's one way of doing it, just counting it up. And sometimes I do it that way. The other way is what I was trying to mention before, is that you know where your root notes are in your chord shapes, and you're putting the root note where it needs to be. In other words, you want to play in the key of B, and you want to use G shape chords. You're going to put that G shape, you're going to take that note on, you're going to find the B note on the 6th string, and then you're going to position the capo 3 frets down to make it relative to your G-shaped chord. I hope that makes sense. But there's 2 ways to look at it, and this chart is definitely one way of thinking about it. Just put it on your capo and count it up, you know, on your chromatic scale, and figure out where you're at, and that'll tell you what key you're playing in. But you're going to be playing these shapes, okay? And like I say, this is my favorite one because there's so many open chords in it. Here's the A shapes. Again, you can just go to the 5th string and find out what note, like let's say you wanted to play, in the key of C, and you wanted to use a capo with the A-shaped chords, key of A, you would put it on 3, okay? Because on the 5th string, that's going to be a C note, and that's going to be your root note of your A-shaped chord. It's on your 5th string. Am I making sense? Okay, move. Okay, now we're on the D shapes. I say the key of D, open shaped chords. In the key of D, these are the chords that are possible in the key of D. Again, if you want to just use your chromatic scale and just count it up, go up step by step by step to get to the key where you want to be, and then put your capo down on 5 if you want to play in the key of G, that's fine. Or if you want to remember that the root note of your D major chord, which is going to be your number 1 chord, is on the 4th string. If you want to look on your 4th string for the note you want, for instance, like G, you would find that note, then put down your capo relative to this chord shape. Okay? Here's a good example. I use these shapes a lot with the key of F. I throw the capo down on 3, and every time on my sheet that I see I'm supposed to be playing an F chord, I'm playing a D-shaped chord. Every time I'm supposed to be playing a C chord, I'm playing an A chord. Kind of makes sense? Okay. And that applies. Now these are the major chords. It applies to the minor chords too. If I were to see a D minor chord, I'm going to play a B minor. Now that's going to be a bar chord, but it's going to be relative to the capo. Okay, it's going to be. I'm going to put a bar chord 2 frets up from the capo to play this B minor shape. It's like you pretend you've got a shorter guitar. Okay. So using a capo doesn't get rid of all bar chords, but it helps you get rid of some. And the more you can get rid of, the better. And the D shapes are pretty good. Like I say, the E shapes are not my favorite to use with capos because there's just not that many open chord shapes in the key of E. But, here's a chart for your future reference if you want to do that. But like I say, this is like my least favorite one. The key of C shapes. I use these once in a blue moon. A lot of times with the key of E. For some reason, I like to use these shapes with the key of E. Just sounds nice. You should try it sometime. Pick a song that's in the key of E and try to play. Every time you see an E, play a C major shape. Okay. Every time you need that C sharp minor, just play an A minor with your capo on 4. This just gets easier with practice. What you'll do is when someone hands you a song and you look at it, if it's already in the key of G, they want to play the song in the key of G, you're like, yoo-hoo, all right. I mean, I don't have to use any capo. But if it's in the key of, whatever, you're going to have to figure out how you want to use the capo to change it for your preference. For instance, in the key of A, that's an open key. I mean, you don't need a capo to play in the key of A. A, D, and E are all open chords. But a lot of times I'll throw a capo on 2 and use the G-shaped chords. Part of the reason is because the relative minor, I don't have to bar chord that. The F sharp minor, it's just E minor when I throw that capo on 2. Plus I can do extra picking things, but anyway. It's your preference, and the more you try it, the better you'll get at it. You need to get good at figuring out your root notes on your number one chord, especially. That will help you figure out where to put your capo and which shapes you want to use. Let's say you had to play a song in B flat. When you say, well, golly, we could just move the A chord up one fret. Hey, you're exactly right. And if you do that, you're going to use your A chord shapes. You're going to throw down that capo on fret 1. You're going to use an A major shape for your 1 chord. You'll be playing B flat major. Exactly right. Now me, my preference is I love the G shaped chord, the G open chords. I would probably throw my capo on 3 and play it that way. That's just me. So it's just going to have to be something that you have to play around with, and you'll figure it out. But you have to practice trying it. You need to take some of your favorite songs and say, you know what? I know I can play this without a capo. I want to try to play it with a capo. Let me see how that would change around. Or I like to play this song with bar chords. Well, let me try to rearrange it where I can play it with a capo. Just try to figure some of them out. I think you will like it. I know this dude right here does. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. And if it's not, let me know what's confusing, and I'll try to clear it up.